Welcome to the Bullish Drive podcast, where we explore the realms of faith, mental performance, and personal testimonies through conversations with high-level performers. Join us as we extract valuable insights from their experiences to supercharge your pursuit of peak performance. This is the Bullish Drive podcast. What's up, fam, and welcome back to another episode of the Bullish Drive podcast. And if you joined us a couple weekends ago, you know that we dove into the realm of music, specifically opera, and we're actually diving back into that today. Today, we're going to look into the world of Christian music, exploring the vital role of community and faith in our journeys, and even my own path began in Christian rock bands as far as the guitar goes. I started guitar when I was in 7th grade, and I experienced firsthand the power of music to spread the message of faith. Through collaboration with fellow musicians, I've learned how essential the right community is in pursuing God's calling. Especially when it comes to music, it transcends language itself. Music is really one of those only types of media that you don't need any words, but you can be from anywhere in the world, hear the same thing, and experience the same emotions, maybe the same memories, or just feel the same thing. And that's why it's so important to make sure you're connected with God's calling when you're delivering worship music. And in this interview today, we'll be joined by a member of the Maverick City Choir, which is an incredible group known for their passion and dedication to worship. And together we'll unpack the significance of having the right community around you and the beauty of following God's calling in your life. And we'll also discuss the mental performance skills needed to navigate the demands of being a musician on the road and pursuing your dreams and overcoming obstacles and missed opportunities and auditions that didn't work out. And we're going to hear how many auditions it might take before you get your break, or the mindset that it takes, or even what can limit us so that we choose to miss an opportunity, all while staying true to our faith. But before we jump in, let me take you back to the beginning of our journey where I met this remarkable choir member. And our collaboration on the worship team at Creative Church was a powerful experience, fueling our shared commitment to creating meaningful music for young individuals in our church, the young and creative. We started in a small room that used to be storage, now converted into a worship space where it was a bunch of us adults inviting and creating a space for junior hires and high schoolers to receive Christ. And I remember in those days, there were 10, 15, 20 kids in that program. And now, thankfully, with the grace of God, it's grown to hundreds of high schoolers and junior hires now worshiping at Young and Creative. And it's been an incredible journey, and how powerful it is when you let God take the reins and you obediently follow through all the hardships, all the frustrations, and just having the right community around you to continue to motivate you and inspire you to keep moving forward even when you don't want to. And today we're excited to share the insights and lessons learned, and we hope this conversation will inspire and resonate with all of you who may be on a similar journey of pursuing your musical wants, your musical passions, and just obediently following God's calling for you. So I'm excited to get ready and explore this intertwining world of music, faith, community, mental performance. And so let's dive in. I'm super stoked to bring on Callie with the K. Known Callie for a little bit of time, and she's just an incredible singer. I want her to come on. I think she has some great stuff to add to this conversation. So Callie, welcome to the show.
Cool. Musically, I started singing around age 15-ish. That's when I kind of started to notice that I actually have somewhat of a decent tone and voice. And since then I've been singing hooks for rappers and other or joining in and doing duets with other singers. And then I ended up going to college for music business at McNally Smith College of Music, which is no longer a thing, and that breaks my heart, but it was the most incredible experience as far as college goes for me. I couldn't have gone to a better place to learn and meet new people, and so really grateful for that. After college is or my last year of college is when I actually got saved and started leading worship. that was completely new to me, because I remember going to church younger and being like, why are these people raising their hands? It's so weird. And I actually like lead, that's basically what I do now musically, is lead worship. Um, we had the Maverick City experience, which we'll, I'm sure, get into that. And that's exciting and fun. That was probably my most, outside of giving birth to my children, that was probably like my greatest highlight of my life, was
Yeah.
getting to be a part of the Maverick City Gospel Choir. And so that was kind of a last summer thing. Still a part of the choir. They haven't really released anything new as of yet, as to when the choir is going to be coming out again and helping them out. But now I currently teach music at my old high school, which is really cool. It's like a full circle moment. I know. And so I teach music there, and it was my first year teaching. So it was a challenge, and but beautiful at the same time. I learned a lot, and I got to build some really amazing relationships in that too. So yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that it come full circle. Now you get to pour in your own passion into like next generation.
I know.
So
it's
cool.
Incredible. Yeah.
So a lot of times people use music as a coping skill or a way to like calm down. Now on your side, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's also kind of your profession. So how do you balance that aspect from fighting? Now it's work, now it's my coping skill. Like, how do you balance that, and what does that look like as a professional musician?
Yeah, I mean, I think once I understood, when it comes to worship, in a sense, I try to not look at it like, oh, it's a performance.
Mm-hmm.
Only because I think I made that mistake in the beginning when I started to, coming from performing with rappers and in the R&B kind of genre of the performance side to leading worship. I think I was hit pretty quick, like, why am I not getting anything? Like, why am I not feeling what everybody else is like talking about? I'm not like matching up. And I think once I understood that worship isn't really performing necessarily, it's more of like, it's a performance, but it's to an audience of one, not
that's good.
everybody else, so it's like, this is a performance but to God, and everybody else is just there to do the same thing. Now, doing the whole Maverick City thing, that was kind of where I was like, wait, okay, but I have to perform now. I have to remember like where my hands are going, and kind of all that. So just for me, I know obviously music is my entire life, and I've been using music to cope pretty much my entire life, ever since I could understand lyrics and melody and what all of that is. It's really just when I need it, like when I feel like I need to cope or let out a good cry, I will turn on the saddest song that I feel like it will get it out of me, and that instantly makes me feel better. I'm a huge lyric person, so I always try to pull songs that I can relate to, and whatever season I'm going through or whatever the case may be, I just like to find those songs to really tap into my emotion, to like bring it out. And when it comes to the performance side, honestly, it makes me feel better if I'm, for example, like if I'm having a really tough week or something and I have to sing, it always just makes me feel better, like just singing, especially in worship. Like, I feel like I lead worship best when I am going through hard times, because it just gives me an opportunity to like pour out all of my emotions and feelings into the song or the set. Whereas like, I don't know, I think like there's just like a little difference between worship and then performing. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Now would you consider yourself pretty like naturally gifted when it comes to singing? Like, did you have to work really hard to get to where you're at? Because by the way, Kelly has like a super dope voice, so just modest about it. But did you always have that confidence behind your voice, or how do you build that?
Um, Honestly, no, I didn't. I think I've always like heard like, oh, she can kind of hold a somewhat of a good tone, but the confidence I think came from the more I did it.
Mm,
And uh yeah, I think every single time I do it, I think I just get better and better every single time. I will say, being a part of Maverick City, the gospel choir, that helped me in my worship leading. So like
mm,
this past year has been, I think I've like come out of this shell as a worship leader
mhm,
just based off of what I learned in that process, and like where, you have to like move around, and there's certain things that you have to like think about when it comes to leading worship. And I know I say it's not a performance, but there are little mini things that do kind of come into there. So um I also, I think, yeah, practice makes perfect, honestly.
mm,
Like the
mm,
more you do it, the better you're going to get at it, and the more comfortable you're going to get, the more confident you'll feel, and the more you'll know, honestly,
mm.
just when it comes to vocals and what that means. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's really good. That's good. I think about like my own journey. I always got super discouraged when I felt like I had failed at a performance or I failed at an audition or something like that. Um,
yeah.
so you talk about just keep going and keep trying, keep going into that. How does that build? Like what part of your journey do you feel like really instilled that seed and allowed it to grow where you just have grit and you just keep pushing, you know?
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with just the passion itself.
Mm,
Um, and trying to, you said like stuff about auditions. Like I've auditioned before where I haven't made it, but I always have to like remind myself that when it comes to auditions, like sometimes sometimes they're not really, sometimes in my case, I felt like the places where I auditioned for, like, I'll just say it, like American Idol or like The Voice, okay? Like not everything is always as it seems, like on social media
mm,
or on TV. Like some things, there's a production behind it.
mm,
And so I kind of always peace with that, and knowing necessarily doesn't mean you're bad at what you do. It's just not exactly what they're looking for. And so that is always just giving me a piece of like, okay, well, on to the next thing. And, if it's meant to be, it'll be. And if not, then something else will come. So,
that's
and
good.
in my case, it did.
Yeah, absolutely, because he stuck with it. Michael Jordan said that he missed 9,000 of his shots, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and so would you say you've had more successful auditions, or were there more failed or missed auditions than there were the ones that worked out for you?
I would say there's more failed for sure. More failed. And I think a lot of that, like when I first started getting into like being a singer and a vocalist, I had to like understand, and I had to hold myself accountable, or I had to ask people to like help me be held accountable, because there were
Mhm.
certain things that's like, oh, Callie, there's this opportunity for you. Are you going to take it? And I'd be like, I
Right.
don't know. Like, yes, I'm going to. And then I would like back out last minute. But yeah, definitely a lot more failed successes.
That's good
But the
because
good outweighs the bad. And again, in my case, I feel like even though I've had more fails, the good like carries that. And I'm at peace with that. So
I love that. If you had to talk to an aspiring singer who feels like that he or she has just had a string of failed auditions, what would you tell them to keep pushing for that one thing that's going to fill them?
keep singing. Literally keep going. Just don't stop. Whatever it is, don't stop. I'm actually just watching, I don't know, TikTok or something, and it was talking about all of these like famous artists and musicians that, or successful people in the world that didn't even start until they were, you know, in their 30s or in their late 30s or early 40s, or actresses and all those people. And I was like, that is so good, because I think when I was younger, I always had this idea of like, wow, I'm 21, I'm still in Minnesota, like what am I doing? Or I'm 23 now and now I have a kid and I'm still in Minnesota, like what am I doing? But you just gotta like keep pushing through it, keep going, keep singing, never ever stop, and what's meant to be for you will be for you, and it'll be so amazing.
Love that. I love that. So hold up. Minnesota wasn't your dream state to live in?
Absolutely not.
Oh man. I thought everyone was trying to get to Minnesota.
You know, I love the state. It's great. I could go without the winter, or at least like if winter was like a month or two, we could make it work. But it's so long that I'm like, no. Plus I've always just wanted to be in California, so I could be like Cali with a K, you know.
Hey,
Cali.
There it is. That explains it.
That's always been.
No,
that's always been my dream.
Your dream,
yeah.
To live in a state that sounds like your name with a different letter. I get it. That's a good
Perfect.
dream. That's a good dream. That's a good dream. So let's kind of shift back to Maverick City now. So tell us about the journey of moving in. What kind of adjustments did you have to make, and what was that like being part of such a renownedly known choir in the music world?
Yeah. Adjustments had to be made for sure. Even along the audition process, it was really challenging for me. So kind of a little backstory on why and how I got into it. I was asked by one of my worship leaders at my church to help lead like our first women's night worship. And we were gonna, you know, decide what songs we were gonna sing, who was singing them, etc., kind of what the vibes were gonna be like. And so she came over and we were prepping and planning, and I was like, I just need to turn on some music, you know, set the tone, try to get our brains working. And Maverick City comes on, and I looked to her and I said, mark my words, I am going to sing with Maverick City one day. Like, yes. I don't know when, but one day I'm going to sing it. And that goes along the lines of never stop. You know, I've been told no so many times, but like, keep going, keep going. So I was like, I don't know when, but I'm going to do it. Probably a week later, my friend, she sends me the live recording of the Maverick City Gospel Choir director. And he's like, oh, we're looking for a choir. We want to find a choir for each region in the States. So Midwest, West Coast, East Coast, and the South. And so she sends me this link and I'm watching it and I'm like, kind of feeling that little anxious feeling of like, do I do it? Like, do I have what it takes? Can I do this? Do I have the capacity? You know, at the time, I don't even think my youngest was 1 yet. And so I was like, I don't know if I can do it. And so anyway, I just registered. And then come to find out that when I got the notification that they were going to be doing auditions, it was the same weekend as the women's conference was, and at church, and it was in Chicago. So because I was not going to give up, I said, we're going to make it work. And so that's what I did. I think it was the audition was on a Thursday, and the women's event was on that Friday. So they were back to back. So I had to drive to Chicago from Minnesota on Wednesday night for my 8 a.m. audition on Thursday. I had to drive back Thursday. It was probably like afternoon or something. So I got back to Minnesota around like 11 o'clock. Then I had to be up on Friday to sing at church. Well, on my way home from Chicago, I got the notification that I made the choir. And I know, it was so, James, I literally got out of my car on like Highway 94 and like did a little praise dance. It was great. And everybody probably thought I was crazy, but it was worth it. Our first rehearsal Saturday. And I was like, wait, like this Saturday.
It's like,
So it was, I had to do the the women's event on Friday, and then that Friday after church, I drove back to Chicago, so I made it to the rehearsal on Saturday. Absolutely 110% worth it. That, travel alone was an adjustment because I don't even think I've ever been in a car that long, so many times back and forth. But another adjustment was just being around, it was an adjustment, but it was also like a blessing, just being around so many amazing vocalists and musicians coming from so many different places of the Midwest. The challenging part was there's some good vocalists on that in that choir, and so there were times where I was like, oh my god, like even during the audition it was kind of like they had you sing in like a choir, so they would pick you out. How am I supposed to sing with like all of these people that are so good? And then I started to kind of get down on myself, but nothing a little pretty to do. I just prayed about it, and I was like, Lord, just like use me, like what happened will happen, and I'm okay with that. And sure enough, it was incredible and amazing, and everybody made me feel really special. Just the choir director, he even said something, he gave me like the best compliment somebody could give me. He said I reminded him of a vocalist who I've been listening to for a really long time, and I was like, all right, I'm set, like my life has been made. I think I've made it in this world.
There it is.
Yeah, but just adjusting to travel and kind of how I've never been in I guess I've been in I was in my college choir, but this was a completely different atmosphere. You know, we were getting ready to do shows in amphitheaters and big stadiums. Yeah. So in front of 15,000 people and or more. And it's just the first show that was Detroit. And I was extremely nervous, but after the rush that I got from just being a part of it and having so much fun doing it, the other shows that I did were easy. It was easy. It was great.
Yeah, it was natural because you were meant to be there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now you were highlighted in a couple of songs, weren't you? You were brought out from the rest of the choir, or you got to sing closer, or what was that? I remember singing.
So that was for each show. They did a little acoustic set, and when we came to, so it was we did this big set where we're all shouting and jumping around and moving our arms and whipping our heads and all this stuff. And then they would have one of those sets, and then they would have an acoustic set where the choir stepped back and just took a break. And then we would come on for the third set, again, jumping around and whatnot. So for the St. Paul show, because it was my hometown and I had kind of, I've talked to the choir director about it, I'm from St. Paul and I'm so excited to be there. So the day of the show, he was like, hey, do you want to be a part of the acoustic set? And I was like, yeah. Of course I do. And so that's why it was me and then a few other people. I think I was the only one from St. Paul, if I can remember. But no, there's two other St. Paul people. But that was the only show that they did was St. Paul. So he just, I think because I was kind of showing up, because the shows aren't required. It's come to which ones you are able to do and come join us. And so I think he just saw that, I wanted to be there. And so I think that's why he asked me. And that was incredible. Walking out on the Excel Center, and I could hear people from church calling my name. And I was that was the greatest feeling ever. It was awesome.
Man, I can't even imagine being in a stadium that big and then still hearing your name being like,
oh my God.
cheered for. Like,
Yeah.
I've been like, this is it.
It was TC. I'm gonna name drop. It was TC and Brittany, and they just made me feel so special. They were just like sitting right there, and I was like, "Oh my dogs!" It was awesome.
Oh man, I love that. Cool. I love how in your story is just continuous. You showing up. You know, you made the choice to push through and keep coming and keep doing it. And I can't imagine that was easy. You know, with your daughters and just with the travel, like you said. How did you manage some of that time, that anxiety, and just traveling with them?
Yeah. I honestly, I have to give it all out to my support system. I have the best support system probably in the entire world. They are between my best friends and my family. I never once felt like I was worried about my kids or like anything like that. They were like, go do it. They were encouraging. So I think like finding your people that you feel comfortable with, safe with, that you trust to help build you up. Having a support system is probably a key ingredient to having like healthy mental when it comes to performance and
so good.
All that stuff. And so it doesn't, I know like a lot of people or a lot of my students, like I always think about when I say support system, because not everybody has that, you know, not everybody is offered, or not everybody gets the incredible family that I have or the incredible friends that I do. And they helped me with my stress and anxiety about traveling and just being a part of the group. And honestly, the most important thing for me was just my relationship with God and trying to not lose sight and focus of that, and like not to get wrapped up in the big lights and the big stage and the popular people. So having a relationship with God is also what continues to help me and push me to the finish line.
I love that. Oh man. Yeah, you said such gold nuggets in there, just with your support system and finding your people. And I was just gonna ask, like, what about those that feel like they don't have the support systems? But you answered it already, so thank you for doing that. Made my job easy.
Of course.
As we're coming kind of down to the end, what would you say should be some key pieces that kind of to lasting comments for aspiring musicians who want to do what you do and go where you've been? So you mentioned support systems. You mentioned God. Is there anything else in those that you feel like are a necessity, like they're non-negotiable for being able to be happy doing this?
Taking care of your body, taking care of your health, and like, you know, mental health matters. Honestly, like, even as far as like vocalist goes, like there are certain things that, like when I did have like shows, there are certain things that I wouldn't eat or drink because I know that like it could affect my vocals. So like just being mindful of what you're putting into your body. You want to make sure that you're well taken care of so you can be the best version of yourself when it comes to like performing. And then yes, God, yes, support system, yes, and just have fun.
I love that. Thank you so much, Callie, for being on here. Like, I so appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of the Bullish Drive podcast. If you want to learn more, check us out at www.bullishDrive.com. And always remember, it starts with you and your destiny is waiting. Peace.